Hi, I'm Tony Bokhoven, announcer at the Knoxville Raceway. Well, some of my first memories were back in the old days. Of course, I was a huge Rocky Hodges fan, and so when I started coming here, Rocky drove for Bob Trossel in the 20, and about that same year he drove Gilly's car. And I remember always walking up the ramp because we sat in Section F, and before I ever got to the top of the ramp, I had to stop and look out into the pits to see just where Rocky was parked, because we couldn't start racing until I decided where he was at and if that was okay. Yeah, it's a funny story, but I used to sit in Section F, row 7, when I was just coming here as a fan. And in that same row, Jack Hurway's daughters sat in that same area. So I got to know Jack, and I already knew Tim from back in the old days when my dad was a drag racer. Of course, Tim was the announcer at the drag strip at Eddyville. But so as I got to know Jack a little bit, we were joking around one night, and I just made the comment, "Look, Jack, you announcers don't have to be all that smart. You just have to like to hear yourself talk." And we laughed ha-ha about that, and some time had passed, and when Dave Reef was going off to interview for TNN before he left Iowa, Jack called me one day and said, "Hey, I got this all taken care of, but do you remember that night you told me that you didn't have to be very smart to be an announcer?" And I said, "Yeah, I remember it very fondly." And he said, "Well, good thing for you that you're not very smart, and we've got it to prove that you can come and announce while Dave's gone." And so that's kind of how it all started. I filled in for Dave, and then I started, and it's been 21 years since then. Oh man, there's been a lot of them. I did get a race that Rocky came back to race in, because by the time I started announcing, he was off racing with the All-Stars and a little bit of Outlaws, and then he had retired. But so I do remember a time where I got a call one of his races. But my most memorable event is probably the night that I got to do the Knoxville Raceway induction for Doug Wolfgang. I mean, there's a lot, because what I learned early on is that it's hard to make everybody happy. But, you know, before the internet became a big deal, you know, our research was done through old Speed Sport news magazines, or literally getting on the phone and calling people, or going and finding them. But now it's just a matter of all week long just staying up on the internet and watching where guys are racing, and if they're racing with other series, and who's winning and who's not. And it's a lot of work, but it's worth it in the end. Yeah, well, you know, the thing about the Chili Bowl is there's so many drivers that come there that we don't get to see during the course of the year. So, you know, I spend a majority of my time focusing on those cars that I don't get to see during the year, and the ones that I do get to see, you know, I have my notes from all year, and as announcers at the Chili Bowl, we share a few notes. So, you know, there's 300 plus cars that come, and so it's a lot of prep work, but because we've worked together so long, we share a lot, and so that makes it a little bit easier. You know, if I can go home at the end of the night and feel like I was able to call an exciting race that the fans, when I see or hear the fans stand up and cheer and yell, and I know I'm getting excited, if I can go home feeling like I did a good job of representing the drivers, then that's all that matters to me. Because it's really about them, and now that we have people listening on the internet, it's easier for them to have their sponsors, their family, and their friends, and so I just want them to feel like they were well represented. If you think coming to the races to be an announcer is easy and you get the best seat in the house, part of that's right. You do get the best seat in the house, but you have a responsibility to be well prepared, to be knowledgeable about not only the sport, but about the cars and about what else those drivers do between the night that you get to see them race and when they come back the next time. So it's all about preparation. It's all about getting to know those drivers on a personal level. What I would like to say, though, just in closing, is that we are fortunate to have a weekly show at Knoxville that is unlike any other. And so I'm honored to get to do that on a weekly basis. The fact that this was my 21st year blows me away. I would have never guessed when I started announcing that 21 years later I'd still be doing it. It's become a passion of mine, and I just am very thankful to the drivers and the crews and the car owners, and most importantly the fans that come out every week.